And now let me introduce your host today. So we have CanWCC member Reema Rachel Khithani. Reema is a visionary entrepreneur and founder of the Hira Collective, a groundbreaking multi-vendor platform designed to connect individuals with holistic wellness practitioners in a culturally respectful and inclusive space. With a deep commitment to integrity, equity, and legacy building, Reema's work is centered on creating thriving communities that prioritize well-being, connection, and empowerment. Through the Hira Collective, Reema honors her family's values and challenges traditional workplace norms, fostering an ethos of care by championing initiatives such as menstrual leave policies and prioritizing the hiring of women purposefully marginalized by systems of inequity. And as a leader, Rima combines her expertise in business growth, community building, and visionary thinking to inspire others to embrace ethical leadership and holistic practices. She is passionate about building meaningful connections and empowering women entrepreneurs to dream big, lead authentically, and create legacies that last. Rima envisions a future where wellness and community care are accessible, impactful, and transformative on a global scale. Through her work, she encourages others to embrace the soulful leadership and the power of inclusive values driven business. So, welcome, Rima. I'll let you take over.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's just get situated here. I'm just going to share oops, there we go. All right, amazing. I hope everyone can see that. Um, Beautiful, beautiful. And let me just move this annoying thing. Perfect. Hi, everyone. I am truly honored to be here with you today. Thank you, Lise, for that beautiful introduction, and Jenna and the entire CanWCC team for this invitation. And truly, thank you for each of you for showing up. In a world that often asks us to lead with urgency, showing up with presence is a radical act. We are going to start off with a grounding. And before I begin, I'd like to invite everyone just to take a nourishing breath together. I don't know about you, but my shoulders feel like they're dropping a little bit. And before we continue this grounding womb connection, I do want to share and I want to offer a disclaimer and a gentle invitation that we are going to be doing a short grounding practice that includes connecting with your body in your womb space. Please know that this space is not gendered, but it is symbolic of your creative center, your intuition, and your power. You are always the expert of your experience. And if at any point this feels uncomfortable or you'd prefer to stay with your breath or simply observe, please honor what feels safest and truest for you. This is a space of choice and care. So let's begin. Inhale and exhale. Now, gently bringing your awareness to your body. Start by feeling your feet on the ground, solid and rooted. Imagine soft roots extending from the soles of your feet, weaving through the floor and into the earth below. Let those roots ground you, deep, ancient, and steady. Now allow your awareness to travel upward through your legs, through your pelvis, and gently arrive at your womb space. This is your center of creation. Whether you menstruate, have ever bled, no longer bleed, or never have, it is your seat of intuition, deep knowing, and cyclical wisdom. Breathe into this space, noticing any sensations, warmth, tingling, or simply presence. Let it soften, let it expand, let it hold you. Now feel that support rising through your spine, your heart, your throat, and out through the crown of your head. You are rooted, you are radiant, and you are here. Let yourself fully land into the space of care, community, and possibility. So I'm just going to speak a little bit about my why as you gently come back into the space. Feel free to keep your eyes closed if you just want to listen, and gently bring yourself and your body back into this space. I want to share why I created the Hero Collective. The Hero Collective is a SaaS booking platform that connects people with vetted, holistic wellness practitioners. Practitioners who honor the cultural roots of their work, who practice with integrity, and who deeply believe in the power of community. Hira is for people looking to find and book with aligned, trusted practitioners, and for practitioners seeking to be found and feel a sense of belonging with others doing the work. I built Hira because I believe care and connection are not luxuries, and they're the foundation of everything. And that includes how we build, grow, and sustain our business. As we continue to build to expand across South America and India, bringing on practitioners globally, with Canadian North American practitioner applications still open, it's critical that we build, grow, and sustain our business, honoring our wellness. I want to share that today is about working with your body, not against it. Whether you menstruate now, used to, or support someone who does, this isn't about hormones. This is about reclaiming rhythm as a strategy. And it's about leading from the body, honoring your cycle as wisdom, and designing businesses that center well being, equity, and sustainability for ourselves and for all those that we lead. So, today's flow, we're going to look at rethinking productivity and leadership. I'll talk about my story, shifting the frame from linear to rhythmic, the old model versus what I call rhythmic leadership, and then moving to cyclical business mapping tool. I'll be sharing a mapping tool with you all where you'll have a chance to work through that and mapping out perhaps the next 28 to 30 days. Of course, this is an invitation, but you will have the tool for yourselves to keep and reuse or use as you wish. We'll then explore the 4 phases, and then we'll talk briefly about designing period-friendly workplaces and what I do. It's a process at Hira and the practices that we use, hoping that you can all take that and bring that to your own space. So I love to hear before I share my story. What's one thing that your body's been trying to tell you lately? If everyone wouldn't mind using the chat to share. Okay. So it's saying go slower, get more rest, that you're burned out. Yeah, been there. Pay attention. Yes, rest. Thank you. These are, there's a theme here. Okay, amazing. Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Lena. Thank you, Louise. Becky, thank you. Crystal, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. When it's time to sleep, it's time to sleep. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Lise. Okay, amazing. So I want to share with you my story. So let me take you back. I've been a teacher actually for 17 years, working in the Ontario public education system, and I'm currently a special education teacher. Now, I don't know if some of you know, but over the last 7 years, with over $6.3 billion in cuts in education, we've definitely felt the weight of that autostrosity, both educators and most importantly, how it impacts our students. And during this time, I've also been navigating a chronic condition that affects my heart and my nervous system. My body's already carrying so much, and it started to speak louder than ever, and I really had no choice but to listen. So while I was completing my master's in education with a focus on STEM and curriculum, I rooted my research in the decolonization of wellness, and suddenly all those pieces started to fit together, both in terms of what I wanted to build with the Hero Collective, but more importantly, how I wanted to lead. I realized that I was a woman operating inside a system of a 24-hour productivity cycle, linear, rigid, masculine systems, but my body flows in a 28-day cycle. My hormones, my energy, my emotions, they all shift in rhythm. Yet I was judging myself through a framework that was never built for me. And that realization was revolutionary. It was and still is a reclamation. So I started small. I started seed cycling. I started tracking my energy and mood. And I started to listen to the language with myself and I softened it. I noticed often I internalized the guilt for needing to rest, which I'm sure many of you probably feel as well, and for not being on each day. But it wasn't me that is broken, it's the model. And something incredible happened. The more I listened to my rhythms and started honoring my body at each phase and strategically deciding what I will be doing at each phase, I felt more alive and way less more burnt out. I was more creative, more energized, more in flow, and my ideas started to land differently. My execution felt aligned. And I wondered, what if our businesses, our leadership, and our workplaces were built to honor our wisdom too? This longing became a blueprint, and when I began to build the Hera Collective, I knew I had to lead differently. One of the privileges of us being founders and business leaders is designing a new way forward. And I knew I wanted a team to feel what it was like to feel in a place that honors that rhythm too. At Hera, our foundation is care. Being a vetted platform of holistic wellness, who lead with ethics and integrity, it was critical that the team also reflected that. Because beyond who we uplift, it's always also how we build. I didn't want to create something that just talked about wellness. I wanted the operations and culture to be wellness intentionally. Because at the end of the day, a business shouldn't only measure productivity, it should honor the people doing the work. So let's shift the frame from linear to rhythmic. Most productivity frameworks, whether corporate, entrepreneurial, or even in the wellness world, are still rooted in linear logic. Constant output, constant hustle, peak performance all day, every day. But we are not machines. We are not factories. We are cyclical beings, fluid, intuitive, rhythmic, and wise. So, what happens when we stop forcing ourselves into that mold? What becomes possible when we stop resisting our natural ebbs and flows and instead beginning to build the body and mind? What if rest wasn't a reward, but part of the design? What if your calendar mirrored your cycle? What if leadership was attuned to rhythm, not rigidity? This is rhythmic leadership, and it's not just personal, it's political, it's structural, and it's deeply strategic. Because when we build with our own natural rhythms, we don't just feel better, we work smarter, lead more intuitively, and create businesses that sustain not just profit, but people. So, before we dive into the cycle-based planning, I want to offer you a tool I created just for this session. The cyclical business mapping tool is not meant to capture everything you do. Let me repeat. It is not meant to capture everything you do. It's meant to zoom into the next 28 to 30 days. So let's just keep this focused, ensuring that everyone feels not too overwhelmed. It's not meant to overwhelm you. And because you wear so many hats in your leadership journey, maybe you're a visionary one day, a bookkeeper the next, or all in one, the social media manager, the community nurturer, the content strategy, the workshop host, all the things. We want to start to see how we can actually understand what we're doing and then strategically place them where they should go in your cycle. So it's not to overwhelm you, but to familiarize yourself with your process. I actually map this out quarterly because now I've gotten familiar enough with this process. And I do this with my team as well quarterly. And we look at the deliverables monthly to readjust what we need to do based on our cycles. It's to notice the incredible range of energy you hold and to get clear on what might be better to support you. All right, so this is the cyclical business mapping tool. And so, what we're going to do is because I was mentioning to you that we do all wear many, many hats, I would love for us to actually reflect on what are the roles you're holding right now and the tasks tied to each role. And then, if you can, the energetic qualities required for each task. So, creative, focused, expressive, intuitive. Now, this is not finite. You can obviously use other words. Here's an example of some things that you might be looking at. So the CEO, the visionary, the admin, the organizer, the community builder, and examples of the tasks and responsibilities. Now, use this that makes most sense to you. If you don't want to write the roles, but you just want to list out the tasks and responsibilities under each column, and then the energy trait that kind of goes with that, you can do that too. So it would be this column and this column. For the fourth column, leave that blank for now. We're going to come back to that. In some of our cases, if we have other people on our team, we might just want to put our roles because someone else might be taking care of the finances and you don't need to take that role on. So it's totally up to you. Just focus on maybe two or three roles and responsibilities. This is not going to be completed in our session today, but I want you to get started, like used to using the tool. So we'll take about 5 minutes to do that. Okay, so I will leave this open for you to look at as you're doing this. I promise it'll all make sense once we go through the different parts of it.
Just 30 seconds left.
Okay, amazing. So the question is, imagine if you didn't have to wear all those hats at once and you could spread those out against around like in your 28-day cycle, giving each task its right time, energy, and rhythm. Now, personally, I'll share with you, this took me a while, about a year, to kind of understand my own cycle and starting to feel this to be so much more intuitive because we've been working in a system that isn't intuitive. And so we're going to walk through what can help you in looking at the different phases of the moon, and so, not to put so much pressure on yourself to make sure you get this right the first time. And the cyclical business mapping tool can be used anytime you'd like. But really walking through how can we start to be aware and be more mindful of what we do during different phases. So, now I want to share that, this is if you don't currently bleed, never have, or on birth control, postpartum, menopausal, or prefer a different way of relating to your body, you still belong here because our bodies are not the only thing that flow with this rhythm. The moon also follows a 28-29 day rhythm, and this ancient collective cycle gives us a mirror, this cosmic calendar, and it reminds us that cyclical leadership is not just biological, it's ancestral, intuitive, and available to us all. For generations, people have synced their energy, their rest, their rituals, and creative work with the moon. It offers a mirror, a rhythm that you can align with you, regardless of how you track your menstrual cycle. So, as we move through the phases, I'll show you how they align with both the menstrual and the moon cycle, and how you can use them to structure your business tasks in a way that honors flow over force. And this is one of the most inclusive ways to practice rhythmic leadership. You get to build a rhythm that works for you, biological, cosmic, internal, or lunar. And for many of us, it's both. So here's a brief overview of the four phases. Our new moon reflects the menstrual cycle, and this may not be for everyone. Some of you may bleed at a different phase of the cycle. I do. I bleed at a different part of the cycle. I bleed during a different part of the cycle. But your new moon is the menstrual, and this is really about rest, reflection, and intuition. Again, and you can choose as you get to be more aware and in tune with your body, which way would you prefer to follow, the moon or your cycle or both? The waxing is your follicle phase. It's about growth, planning, and ideas. The full moon is your ovulatory. I can never say that. It's about visibility, action, and sharing. For me, it's really about connection and community and being with others. Wanting is the luteal phase, the focus, editing, and releasing. So we'll start with the new moon. So with the new moon phase, for many of us when we're in our menstrual, it's oops, sorry about that. It's our energy's low, and we're internal, but we're also the most intuitive. This parallels with the new moon. It's ideal for rest, for visioning, for reflection, and for strategy. It's really the metaphor that's used is it's our inner winter. And so during this time, I journal, map, dream, and ask myself, what's ready to be born? What's ready to fall away? What kind of businesswoman do I want to be in this next cycle? Because I do follow not a weekly, but a 28-day cycle. And so this time is really your inner winter, your time to go inward. In nature, winter is not unproductive, it's just sacred preparation, right? I'm going to repeat that. In the winter is not unproductive. It's sacred preparation. So our roots deepen, our energy retreats, and new ideas can gather both quietly and under the surface. And when I'm in this phase, I try to step back and unplug, even for a half a day. I journal, I nap, I dream, and I ask myself what's ready to be born. I find that during this phase is really good for me to map out my content calendar, to brainstorm ideas around content. Sometimes I'll take pictures or record things and like visions or things, ideas that I have that I can share. And I'm in this phase, I really tend to my intuition and tend to who I want to be. So, some ideas or examples that could work for you is reviewing your goals or your data, journaling, visioning. You're not planning just yet, but you could be inspired to. Recording intuitive voice notes or mind maps, writing heartfelt captions for your personal journey. It's this time that I usually bulk create a lot of my like personal posts and things like that, and personal content. I rest intentionally. I create dream boards in Canva and Notion. I do write letters to my future self and hoping and planning out kind of like what the next 28-day, 30 days will look like. And on here, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, but our team and our practitioners are not expected to be on during the cycle. In fact, it's strongly encouraged that they're not working. Now, many of the practitioners and our team choose to use this time to vision or dream or be creative because they're so invested, but they are like strongly encouraged to really take it easily. The next phase is our inner spring. This is the waxing moon or the follicular day. It's days 6 to 13. This time, your energy is really creative and expansive. It's very strategic. The moon parallel is the waxing moon, and it's really great for planning, building, and starting. This is your inner spring, your return to momentum. And for some of us, this happens a lot sooner. So for me, for example, as I've been, following, using my intuition, for me, it's really the first 2 days of my menstrual cycle, and then the momentum starts to build just after. And so it feels fresh, fertile. Your brain is being primed for new ideas because of what you've planted. Your estrogen starts to rise. You feel lighter. The fog starts to lift. And it's a really fantastic time to start something new. Maybe it's starting or putting that podcast series or writing your blogs or your launch plan or a program outline or mapping out like what's your lead magnet going to be, and anything that really needs mental energy and creativity. So this is really when I open up my ClickUp and my Notion, and I just let ideas and create the dashboard, create the timelines, write the proposal, plan out, map out the workshops, outline the emails, recheck the systems, or plan out new systems. And if a new idea has been tugging at me or something that I've started to be thinking about during my menstrual, this is when I start to give it form. So the internal team and what I've shared with practitioners is that we also start to launch and share new offerings or creating those so they're ready to launch at the full moon. So this is really around the time around clarity, optimism, creative momentum really comes naturally here. So here are some ideas for the waxing moon or the follicular phase. All of this is in the mapping tool that I gave you near the bottom on the page. So you have all this there, but I just want to kind of review some of it, and just share it with you again. Think about like you're starting to, like your spring, right? You're starting to bloom. And then we have the full moon. So during this is your magnetic, your expressive, your vibrant. Now, again, this can be very different depending on who, like your body, your intuition. So for me, it used to be flipped. The full moon and the new moon energy used to be flipped for me. And each of us are going to be different, but it's really important to understand that the four phases and for you to map out what that flow looks like for you. This is your summer phase. Your energy is bold, radiant, and expansive. You're magnetic, and people feel and see it. And so now is the time to be seen, share your voice, strengthen your visibility. So for Hira, it's when we really go into the spotlight. It's when we're pitching to media outlets, to brand sponsors, we're doing practitioner spotlights, we're sharing celebratory announcements. It's when we host a lot of our community events and co-create IG lives or send PR emails. We have quarterly retreats at Hira, and they're all organized around the full moon. And we have social gatherings as well, and they're always organized, monthly social gatherings, and they're always organized around the full moon. So practitioners will often plan their workshops, hold space for group sessions, or launch new offers during this time. So for me, as someone who's both an introvert and an extrovert, this is the time where I will be more like outward facing commitments. Now that my my energy's kind of gone back to match this. It's also when I take the moment to send gratitude messages or updates on LinkedIn and things like that as well. Here are some things that kind of like could match business examples for this phase. It could be when you kind of, if you know what your quarter looks like, it's when you can map out when you're going to be, filling out those award applications or doing your behind the scenes stuff that you want to share or launching an offering or a free challenge. So the next phase is a little waning moon. The energy here is focused, it's very detail oriented. So you've been out there, you've been talking, and now you're kind of like focused and detail oriented and sensitive. It's the waning moon. It's really about editing systems, completion, evaluation. You're completing this cycle. This is your autumn. So it's a time for refinement, discernment. You're not outward facing, but you're incredibly productive. And these 10 days is like a lot of us are like, oh, I'm so good, good. And then you kind of go into your bleed. I'm like, what happened? Well, this is what happened, right? You're in this phase. And then when you're waning off, that's when you're to reflect and think and like nurture new ideas. So during these 10 days or however long it might be for you, I'm really big on like closing the tabs, completing things, laser focused, looking at metrics, reevaluating anything that's off. I really crave order and completing and updating systems. So that's kind of like how I work. So, my question to all of you is what if rest wasn't a pause, but a portal? Now that we're now moving back, we're coming back to that pause, right? Our bleed. During this phase, these are some examples of what you could be doing, auditing your booking systems, your website, your bio links. Now that I've been doing this for so long, I I mentally even kind of like I have a box and I like mentally be like, okay, I'm gonna, rejig my introduction package during this time of the month and rejig this then. And I think that's really what happens when you start to reframe and start to readjust how your deliverables are done. So now we're going to take some time and we're going to go back to that tool. So you filled out this first part here, the hats you wear, your roles and responsibilities, and the energy trait. What I'd like for you to now we'll take just 5 minutes just to start, and hopefully you'll take some time to complete this later. What I'd like for you to do is write the ideal cycle phase that you think that task or responsibility should be done. And again, remember, we're just doing the next 28, 30 days. You can use this chart to help you to review to see where you think you would best perform these things during the phase. And then I'd love for you to do is plan your next 28 days. So this is quite literally what we do on our team quarterly. So we make a list of all the things that we want to complete, and then we map them out, what phases that they would go. And then month to month, we actually use the second template here. We write all the dates, what phase we're in, what tasks we're going to do, and any supports that we need. So, what I would love for you to do for the next 5 minutes is just get familiar with this tool and start to plug in what phase that maybe that's as far as you get right now. If you feel really eager to do so, go right ahead into the next part where you can actually map out your next 4 weeks, taking everything from here and plugging it in here. Now, I didn't write the dates because you might want your 28 days to start at a different time. You could start right now. So you can write the weeks or the dates, the phase that it's in, the tasks that you'll be doing, and the supports that you need. If we could put 5 minutes
Yep.
on. how was that for everybody? Like, how did that feel kind of like being able to like move things into different of the four category or the four areas? Like, how did that feel for you? Overwhelming. Okay, that's really good feedback. Thank you. I'd love to hear more about um, of the overwhelm. Was it overwhelming because there was just so much to do and you weren't sure how to move it in the four categories? Um, was it overwhelming because you realized you have so much to do? Accomplished. Amazing. Thank you for that feedback. I have some tasks like professional development where I list energy. Yeah, so sometimes with professional development, I think we also have to understand, like with courses and stuff, is that sometimes there's just things that like we have to attend a course or we need to complete an assignment. And so we just need to make sure that we don't overburden ourselves when those things are during our bleed or times where we need more rest. So during that time, that would be the focus of what you'd be doing, and you wouldn't be piling on so many other things. That's how I handle it because there's just certain deadlines that we just have, right? As someone who contracts out, there are several hats I wear in several sectors, and that's what my own business is building that with clients running programs. Yeah. So I also kind of do little contracts, and now I'm just like really mindful of like when I'm available. And so it's taken me some time to do that, but it's just this is when I'm available and this is when I'm off. So I don't actually take any calls or do anything during my bleed. Okay, let's go back. I know we don't have that much time. For me, like I share this with my team, and we also have developed role specific things that they like that could be done during their cycle, and they've adjusted it. That's best for them. Like what kinds of things do they? And it's not a finite list. It's intuitive, right? It's learning to honor our body first, and things change month to month and cycle to cycle as well. So, I want to share and I want to get something really, really clear. Rest is not lazy, it's strategic and it's purposeful. Flexibility is not unproductive, and cycles are not an inconvenience. If our workplaces were truly inclusive, they would honor the full spectrum of the human rhythm and the human experience, including the ways that we flow with our cycle. And this isn't just theory, it's truly how we operate every month across our team, our practitioner community, and it works. Um, so this is how we kind of do this with our team. Step one, we start with the body. Each month, our team begins with brain dumping, every task or responsibility that feels alive for them, the deliverables, the admin, the launches, the events. We have our calendars where we have the dates that are like firm and finite, right? That's what's happening when it's happening. And then we map out our rhythm. We lay out the 4 week calendar, the template two that I shared with you, and we put all the tasks that we had at the top and we start to plug them into the weeks that feel natural for us. Sometimes it makes sense for us to revisit this. So we do this quarterly and then we revisit it monthly. And some quarters we just do it monthly, depending on how busy that quarter is going to be. And we need to do it month to month versus all quarterly. This visual becomes our energy maps. It helps us ask us what energy does this task need, what would feel the easiest to do and most aligned, and what's flexible and what's not. I don't assign timelines. Each member gets to choose what they do based on their real-time energy and body awareness, their cycle or moon cycling, and their family and life commitments. If someone knows that day two of their cycle is hard, they rest. And if their full moon energy, if they're in their full moon energy, they lead visibility projects. Now, I will say, as an all-woman team, we are all synced now, so everything kind of flows, and the deliverables on rhythm, which is really, really fun and has been for the last about year now. So at Hira, our cycle conscious workplace practices are more than just policies, they're living rhythms. And here are some ways that we honor them. Now, again, we're always talking about it, seeing what better ways we can adjust with each other and with how Hira is growing and scaling. We don't plan key launches, events, or intensive meetings during our, because we're all synced, our menstrual windows. We work with our rhythms, not against them. During our menstrual cycles, we will connect for some chai or some tea over a Zoom call and just chat and do some soul connection. But we don't have like these rigorous, intense team meetings. We rest, then reflect. We also have no work days. So, day one and or day two and three, invited to not work, at least in the traditional sense. A lot of my entire team will always get really creative and be doing things in that, even though they're asked not to work. That it gives them excitement. They're excited to do things because they're honoring their rhythm and they do so that way. Rest and reflect, that said, because we're so attuned to our bodies, many of us end up using these days to journal, reflect, and dream up big picture visions, cycle check ins, and everyone plans their own with their own flow. Everyone maps out their own deliverables. We have here are all the things that need to be done. How are these going to be mapped out? Here are the finite deadlines. So someone might get something done way earlier in the month, even though that doesn't need to be done until the end of the month because that's when it's being launched. But that's when it works for their cycle. And so that's why it's so important to have that clear idea. Now, because here it is also so new, and it took us some time because we were just kind of like doing what needed to be done like right away, right? We're always following, chasing the timeline. But now that it's been a year since the team's been together, 6 months since the platform's been launched, there's a little bit more predictability and we're able to plan out a quarter, 2 quarters in advance, which has been a lot easier for us to be able to implement all of this. So, my closing prompt is what's one small shift you can bring into your workplace or team culture, or for yourself if you are the entire team, to honor your cycle or cycles of those who you work with? I'd love to hear from the chat. No need to rush, take a breath, check in with your body. And I'd love to hear about like what you're taking away from today's session as well. And as I see them come in, I'm going to close sharing my screen. I want to just say thank you for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I can just get off the chat and just say that I will be sharing your mapping tool with the CanWCC team. I think it's brilliant. And when we were doing the exercise, I actually was excited because I'm always reading these productivity tools. So I'm excited to try something that's going to work with my body. And I've already implemented something of the sort with my exercise regime, and it
Mm-hmm.
works. And I
Yeah.
never thought about putting it to work, like, or implementing it in my work life. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited.
I love that. I love that so much. I actually designed, if anyone is interested, I trained a GPT, a chat GPT bot to know my cycles. And now it tells me what workouts to do and what work to do within here because it has all my tasks. So I'm happy to support with that as well in any way. But I'm really glad that your team might be use it. Yeah. I'd love to be invited in if they want to be trained on how to do it more effectively. But
Of course.
yeah.
So I really want to thank you so much, Reema, for this workshop, and I want to thank everyone for attending.